Chapter 13. The beautiful, mysterious time agent was angry at herself for not catching it sooner. Don't tell me I'm stuck with a Time Lord that is constantly the target of elaborate traps. Saber finished, removing her 3D glasses. Again? As she started typing on the huge old control node, the Time Lord in question regarded her. The parts Purge needs are all here. Mr. Blue ignored her, regarding Dr. Dolka. I should very much like to meet this Marquis. Set up a parley between us. That's a good love. He patted the scientist on the head, like a dog, before waiting for what he knew to be the obviously angry and indignant response. He simply took off his cardboard viewers. Conversation over. That was rude. What parts now? The rude Time Lord ignored Saber's observation. First, a decent quantum stabilizer. That's important. Next, we have our handy-dandy tachyon filter. You need to replace yours every 6 decades. The one on your TARDIS is fried. I'm rude because anger is a base emotion which floods simple-minded creatures with a singular purpose. For the next couple of hours, that Dr. Dolka will, admittingly or not, be thinking about me quite a bit. What a precarious prig I am. She would definitely want to complain about me. Hopefully to this Marquis. Whom has I stranded here? Saber nodded. Sneaky renegade Time Lord logic. I know it well. Mr. Blue never seemed to hear the last thing Saber said. And Purge is not a TARDIS. She is a time capsule. If anything, she is an IOTARDIS. Thank you very much. A heavy, heavy sigh. Really? You're still hung up on that? The Time Lord in the perfect blue suit regarded her, then straightened his cobalt tie with a hint of smug. No idea what you're talking about, love. I just prefer to be accurate. Some renegade Time Lord's granddaughter. A simple Gallifrey youth, mind you. Not a real Time Lord. Technically, you are not a real Time Lord. Mr. Blue's eyes were strabismus, leering. Oi, do so shut up. I think the term automobile more elegant than car, but the term TARDIS gets thrown around all higgledy-piggledy, even though there haven't been any TARDISes since somewhere around Model 70. Everyone, even the High Lords, call them TARDISes. They're independent embodiments of time and relative dimension in space. IOTARDIS. I know, fella. I know. The darkly gorgeous time agent shook her head. She had a small smile on the corner of her lips. Saber let out another deep sigh. What? This entire argument is moot. You being all worried about calling your machine a TARDIS, or a time capsule, or an IOTARDIS, or whatever. Why is that? The Time Lord divided his attention between her and his watch. Professor Green calls Purge his TARDIS. So does the man in red. Saber regarded him and shrugged. Spoilers. Oi, I'm not them yet. Hell, Purge is an IOTARDIS, or time machine. Damn it! Capes Elonek Orkvez Traveler, 122-year-old time baby. Saber grinned as she read a final note on the green and brown primitive readout screen. And lastly, a magnetic D interlacer. Should get your time capsule operating great. The time baby threw down his 3D glasses in a tantrum. Saber cast aside her wicked sarcasm momentarily and addressed him. Why don't we focus on what exactly this temporal cascade can do? Then, most logically, figure out how to not be here when it does. Mr. Blue typed on his watch and took a reading. What was that? How to not be here when it does? Before that. Magnetic D-interlacer? Then... The Time Lord interrupted her once more. No. Before that, You said my name. Say my name. Saber grimaced at him. What? Say my name. If you call me bitch, I swear to God. What do you call me when we're in purge? You mean your time capsule? AUDIOTARDIS? Saber returned wryly. Fine, yes, my boring ass TARDIS. Ya happy? Mr. Blue conceded superficially. Now, how does my bloody name sound inside Purge? He was rigging his watch to mimic Purge's universal translation matrix. When she uttered his name, it came out Kappa Zili blah blah traveler. Now, stay with me. He held up a finger. In the lair of the catacombs under the Chateau de Bellevue, you pronounce my name correctly because the future version of me, Black, has corrected that translation matrix glitch. My purge was out of commission. What does that have to do with... Mr. Blue turned off his watch. Say my name. Capes Ilonek Orkvez Traveler. So frickin' what? Purge is out of commission, Saber. Whom or what is translating for me so perfectly? Saber looked around, took a step back from the giant machine, which suddenly appeared to her to be some sort of ancient rudimentary time rotor. Mr. Blue finished her thought for her. The Time Lord gently placed his hand on the time agent's shoulder, simultaneously creating a basic psychic time-sensitive empath circuit. Suddenly, Saber could make out the shape of the room they were in more clearly. It was strangely familiar. The layout. On the walls, recessed in the circular room, were the faded and worn, yet recognizable, roundels of a TARDIS. Or what came before a TARDIS. Instead of a control console, this old beyond imagining machine had this tape reel node. This beast of a primitive and monochrome server as its time rotor, if one could call it that. Sidrat, Saber muttered in awe. This is a space and interdimensional robotic all-purpose transport. Dr. Dolka finished. She stepped forward, hands on her hips, out of her time stream. Saber and Mr. Blue were taken aback. Indeed, Saber noticed neither she nor the Time Lord in the impeccable cobalt suit were wearing their timey-wimey 3D viewers. The Time Lord aimed his temporal watch at Dr. Dolka, fired a blast, shocking the time agent. Yet the green electricity released as a pulse simply covered Dr. Dolka in an emerald field, which disappeared to reveal another woman entirely. Shimatech, Mr. Blue smiled. An oldie, but a goodie. So I suppose Dr. Dolka had no trouble in setting up a meeting with Marquis? Not at all. The newly revealed Marquis was attractive, demure, with auburn hair. You worked through the initial part of this pretty quickly, I'll give you that. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the primitive time rotor. Excuse me, but who are you? Saber materialized her katana. Oh, my friends call me Deceit Saber. The strange woman circled around like a snake. I was the one who stranded your time capsule here with a negative photon flux ray. Fantastic. So now is the part where you reveal your big plan, like some Bond villain. Then I cut you in two. The time agent was annoyed, ready to strike. The seat smiled elegantly, tilting her head to one side. Obviously, you know if you kill me, two things will happen. One, I will simply regenerate, and I will simply kill you again. Two, Deceit yawned. You would never leave Vrem. Saber looked over at Mr. Blue, who stared at the antique Sidrat rotor in silence. Well, Mr. Time Baby, is she right? What exactly is she trying to do here? How does she want to use the temporal cascade? The seat waved at her politely. Hi, over here? I can answer that, dear. You see, Vrem is a still point in time, 2667, very susceptible to becoming a time hinge, or a fixed point, or really anything a time lady could possibly use it for. Trouble is, you need enough power." The renegade time lady caressed the old time rotor, eyes coming to rest on Mr. Blue. He stood and stared straight ahead in silence. "A temporal cascade. That's all the power you could ever need." Saber's eyes turned silver. She felt her armor envelop her like a warm glove. Her sword was vibrating. "Question is, what do you want to do with it before we stop you, that is?" "Look around you, Saber," Mr. Blue finally offered. "What could she possibly do with all that raw time energy and a stranded, broken-down, barely operational Sid Right?" Saber's shiny, silver, armored eyes widened. "Deceit is going to make a TARDIS." "Not just any TARDIS," Deceit interjected excitedly. "A fixed-point TARDIS. A TARDIS that can literally never be destroyed, never run out of power." Mr. Blue quit typing on his watch, let his hand drop, yet his head still hung low. Saber could see a grim look on his face. The Time Lord growled, "Deceit is trying to make an ever-TARDIS."